Hi, I'm so happy you're here. My name is Tracey Shearer, and I'm a best-selling published author. And I can't wait to talk to you about the power of storytelling in my storytelling series. I have two books out right now on Amazon that you can find them. And I also have the third book in the trilogy that I'm working on now. I'm really excited. It's going to be released in a little bit. We're still working on it. It's a process. Anybody who's written a book can tell you that it's not just you've written the book and you're done. There's a lot that goes into it, but it's a way I can explore my joy of storytelling. So I'm very, very blessed to be able to do that and to be able to share that with you. So I wanted to go over a bit about storytelling in general, why we tell stories, the healing power of stories, the things that stories can do. And so I wanted to get into the fact of that storytelling has been around for forever, right? We know this. There are stories that were written down. There are stories that are verbal stories. We tell stories to each other all the time. We usually don't rattle off a series of information. We usually don't say, I went to Home Depot, I bought a bucket for my paint job, and I paid $2.50 for it. Now, usually, if we're going to tell somebody about our trip to Home Depot, there's a reason why we're telling them. So we're telling them that we went to Home Depot and we were trying to find the paint bucket. And we went down this other aisle and then we got all mixed up and lost. And then this nice person showed us where the paint buckets were. But then I couldn't find one that was big enough. So I had to have the guy go into the back, and he went into the back and he found them. And he actually found two. And I figured I'd buy two so that I can go ahead and keep one for the next job. And then do you know what? It wasn't really $2.50. It was actually $3.75, but they gave me, get the idea. So it's usually this whole story that we're telling somebody else. And we're telling them because we're not only conveying information, which is one of the reasons why storytelling is so great, but we're also sharing some insight into who we are. We're exposing a bit of who we are. People don't realize this when they tell stories, that they're actually giving insight into themselves to other people, even a simple story like that Home Depot story, because there might be certain things you can glean from that about me. And so it's so interesting, the power of storytelling, not only to convey information that you're speaking, but also the information that's coming from how you're telling the story and what pieces of the story you're including when you're telling a story. It's very fascinating. As you know, you've seen multiple movies and books where certain information is left out, or somebody says something in a certain way that conveys a whole nother aspect and underlying subtext. Storytelling is out there because it's such an effective way to communicate. And it's been around, as I said, for forever, for many, many different reasons. We use storytelling every day. We watch movies, we read books, we talk to people, we share our stories on other methods like blogs and articles. People share their stories on Facebook and social media. And there are some stories I'm like, oh, wow. Because personally, I always try to share things that I don't mind people, anybody knowing, a stranger knowing. But it is kind of interesting, some of the stuff I'm seeing on social media, because I believe, especially now, after we've been through and continue to go through this pandemic, social media has been a way for us to connect and for a way for us to communicate when we can't be in person. And I think because of that, the storytelling has become a little bit more raw. Things that maybe you wouldn't necessarily share out there to everybody. You're sharing now, not only because that's a method of communication, but also because we are trying to connect when we can't see each other in person as much anymore. Now, things have gotten a little bit better, which is fabulous, but there's also that situation where I think we're always going to be living through the experience of what we've just gone through, which has affected our storytelling and the way we communicate. So as you can see, we use storytelling in everything. And that's why I wanted to do a series on it, because there's so many different aspects that we can talk about and that I can share about. And so I wanted to go through some of the ways that storytelling can perform certain aspects. So one of them, as we mentioned, is that connection to people. If I'm just telling you, let's just say that I'm telling you, you know what, I went to the doctor and, you know, I'm going to have to go in and have a checkup on something. That's information. And I'm giving you information. You're like, okay. But if I'm actually telling you about how I'm feeling about it and the things that are going through my mind, and I'm worried because there's a history of XYZ in my family, and I'm going in to see the doctor and I don't know what they're going to say. And I'm sharing these things with you, and I'm telling you the story of what I'm going through. That is going to connect us, because I didn't just leave it with, I'm going to the doctor. And there are plenty of people you're just going to say, I'm going to the doctor to. But when there's somebody that you're trying to connect with, or that you care about, or that you have that type of relationship with, you're going to be telling them more of a story about what's going on. You're going to be sharing how you're feeling, sharing your fears, sharing your hopes. And it connects you because there's that sharing. I'm leaning in to tell you something, you're leaning in to listen to it. Think about the people that tell you things at work, even, that will share something in confidence with you. How do you feel when they've done that? And I'm saying this is like somebody that isn't trying to like be a troublemaker, right? I'm saying it's somebody that's sharing something with you. You probably feel a little bit closer to that person than Joe, who just says, hey. Yet Jack over here is sharing something personal with you and telling you a little bit about their story. So it has the ability to connect and build those relationships, which is really, really important. And which is why storytelling is such an amazing vehicle that we see used all the time in books and movies, everything, where we're trying to connect with people. We're trying to pull them in. As an author, I want my readers to just fall into my books and go, oh my God, I'm just transported. I'm there. I'm really connected to those characters because they're going through things. I'm hearing it. I'm seeing it. I'm feeling it. Same thing with movies. Think about the movies that have moved you, how they've told the story. You can tell the same story multiple ways, and all depending on how it's told and how it's conveyed is where that connection can really, really form. And so it's a way of us connecting with each other and empathizing with each other. So that story I was mentioning, that going to the doctor, if I'm telling you that, you might go, you know, I've had a similar situation like that. Or I know somebody who went through that. Or I wonder how I'd feel about that. And it can form a connection of empathy with somebody else. This is why it's so powerful when people write their memoirs and their personal development books about their journeys, things that you do see on social media where people are talking about their struggles. It builds that empathy and that connection. Because I tell you, when you have empathy with somebody, there is automatically a connection. There is. That's the beauty of storytelling. And that's why so many people want to share their story, is to let others know that they're not alone. We're going to talk about that with the digging deep and getting into you know, those kind of scary stories that you guys might have, that you might be thinking, I can't share that. I'm nervous about sharing that. I don't know. But when you dig deep and you're vulnerable, that's really where the magic happens. Because anybody can say, like I can say, I'm a cancer survivor, right? So I can say I got cancer. You're like, that's sad. But if I tell you, But all the things I went through about getting cancer, losing my job, and losing my mom all within a few months. You're that might make you go, oh my gosh. And then if I tell you how I felt and how I broke down and how I pulled myself back up again and all those things, it's going to build that empathy, that connection. And for those of you in business, it's that, like, know, and trust factor. And we're going to talk about that when we talk in the business episode is, you get to like somebody, then you want to know them. And then comes the trust. And those are the people, that you want to buy from then. Think about the things that are out there, and 5 different people can be selling gutter services, whatever it is. But you're going to go with the one that you trust. And how you get there is by liking them, getting to know them, and then building that trust factor. So those are just some of the different aspects of storytelling, that it can have these effects. It can also make you think about things differently. It can make you look at a situation that you have looked at time and time again, and you're like, well, obviously it's X. Somebody tells you a story that shifts the way you're thinking about it, that reveals information you didn't know, that makes you think about it in a different way because you haven't been faced with something like that. I mean, I think about all of the things that have happened, especially over the past year or so, with a lot of the things that have come out with, people who are discriminated against, people that are treated poorly based on their race, based on their sex, based on their beliefs, right? We see this all the time. And if you're not in that situation, you might not understand how that feels. We're all guilty of that. And when somebody shares their story from their viewpoint and they're vulnerable and they let you in, you can see the world through their eyes. And that changes your worldview sometimes. That makes you think of things maybe just a little differently. Maybe when you see something else happening, you're seeing it differently now because your eyes have been open. It's the same thing when you think somebody is a certain way and they're X, Y, and Z, just, perfect or whatever it is. And then you find out some of the stuff that they've done, or you see some of the stuff, or you see the way they've treated people, whatnot, and it shifts the way you look at them. And that's what stories have the ability to do. It shifts the way you look at the world. Stories also have the ability to shift the way you look at yourself. And what I mean there is, if somebody is sharing a story about, say, a personal trauma that they went through, or you're reading a book or a memoir about something like that, and they talk about the coping mechanisms they used, the horrible way they treated themselves because they felt they only deserved X, Y, and Z. And you start empathizing with those things. And you're like, yeah, yep, I think I'm having those issues too. But I didn't realize I was doing this. That person's doing exactly what I was doing. And I never realized it. I never realized I was doing that. Oh my gosh. Makes you think about what you've been doing differently. Maybe there's reasons why you haven't done something, and they're really good reasons, right? I don't have the time. I don't have the money. What do we always tell ourselves when we don't pursue really what we want? This would never work out. I don't have the skills. I'd have to move someplace else, whatever it is, right? We come up with tons of excuses. Some of them are valid. I'm not saying they're all not. But if somebody's sharing a story about how they succeeded doing something against the odds, or things that they thought were never going to happen and were impossible that all of a sudden happened, makes you think about your excuses and your reasons. Could I do that? Maybe I could do that. They did it. Power of storytelling. Somebody can say, I made a 6-figure, month or whatever. Yeah. It's great. But if somebody tells you how they did it, and somebody tells you all the struggles that they went through, and somebody tells you about how they were going to give up, but then this happened, that might shift how you're feeling and make you feel like you can do it. So storytelling not only shifts your view of the world many times, as I said, it shifts your view of yourself. Going along with that, storytelling also has the incredible ability to heal. And we're going to talk again about outside and inside. So, on the outside, your stories have the ability to heal other people that are going through struggles. Whether or not it's something super traumatic, whether or not it's just even something, and I won't say losing a job isn't traumatic, but there could be various levels of trauma that people could be having. Losing a job, losing a parent. It could be their wife dying or their husband dying, getting cancer, being abused, being abandoned. I mean, there's lots of different things people could be going through. Somebody could have gotten attacked and mugged. Somebody could have been in a fire. I mean, who knows what it is? There's so many different things that people could be going through. Somebody lost their home in a tornado or a flood or whatever it is. When you are sharing your stories, whether or not it's in a book or on social media or a blog or somebody you know personally, your stories can help heal other people because you are forming that empathy and that connection with them, which can many times show them that they're not alone. Somebody else has gone through something similar. Somebody else has gotten through it. Somebody else fell apart and pulled themselves back together. It's totally okay to fall apart. We're so hard on ourselves many times, thinking we need to be something or act a certain way or handle things a certain way. And when we don't, then sometimes we can end up getting so down on ourselves for not handling it more intelligently, or why did I do that? That was so stupid, or whatnot. When somebody has shared that they did the same thing, or they were silly, or they thought they were doing the right thing at the right moment, or they just needed to collapse and it's totally okay, that can make somebody feel like they have somebody in their court. They're not out there on an island. Somebody else has gone through this. And it doesn't even have to be the same exact thing, because there can be moments of connection that aren't necessarily exactly the same. Like, I know if I watch something and it's really connected with the characters and somebody dies, I might not have lost a sister, but man, I can really relate because I've lost my mom and dad. So there's different things that can connect, even if it's not the same exact thing. So by sharing your stories, and by us sharing our stories, especially now when the world needs even more kindness, you have that ability to help heal other people, which is why so many people are writing their books right now. What about healing yourself? Well, for me, when I lost my mom and I found out I had cancer, writing became extremely healing for me. I was able to work through and process some of my grief. And when I say grief, I don't just mean for my mom, I mean for myself. I felt awful that I got cancer, and it was a super rare form of cancer too. Like, great, super rare, not genetic. Nobody would have ever guessed it. I just ended up finding out I had it, thankfully, because the tumor grew so big it was pushing my internal organs out of the way. I mean, it's just such a crazy experience, and I was mad. I was really mad, and I was feeling like everything was unfair. Why did I get this? Why did I have this? Why do I have this? And everybody who's gone through something has those moments. I was grieving for the fact that I would never be free of it ever again, because we always have to monitor it, and it's come back several times already. it will always be part of my life. So not only was I grieving for the loss of my mom, I was also grieving for the fact that I got stuck with cancer. Now, years later, it's still in my life. It just came back recently. But I'm still here and I'm still fighting. And my perspective and other things have changed. But through my writing, it helped me process a lot of those things. People always talk about journaling, journal this, journal that, when you're trying to work through issues and things that you've run into. Absolutely journal. But also, too, if you're writing a book, you can pour that into your book, what you're processing, what you're going through. And I don't mean just nonfiction either, because I am a fiction writer. And my fiction books incorporated the things I was going through. Think of how many fiction books have changed people's viewpoints and have affected people, and they're fiction. And one of the reasons why I believe fiction can do this so well is that it's more accessible because it's fiction. You're not reading about somebody's particular life. You're not reading about something that's supposedly, like fact. You're reading about a story, and the storytelling pulls you in, and you are open to what is coming and what the story is and what you're learning. And so you can put a lot into a fiction book that ends up helping other people. My books, I've been told, people have said they've reached out to people that they haven't talked to in a really long time. One of my readers actually dreamt about a friend of hers who had died that had come back to visit. There's so many different ways that when you're healing yourself, when you're writing, that you end up also healing other people as well. Now, does that mean you have to publish to use storytelling to heal yourself? Nope. Just do it for yourself. Journal if you want, blog it, do whatever you need to do, but really use the power of storytelling to help you through your challenges and your hard times. You can even, and I've told some clients to do this, is have a character that has gone through what you've gone through and explore how they handle it. Explore how they're feeling. Explore the questions they might have. Explore how they might not handle it very well. There's a lot of different things you can do with storytelling that can help you understand and process a bit more and really unpack those complex feelings. And so storytelling is just an amazing tool, whether or not you publish your book or get a TV series put together or whatnot, or put anything out there, even if it's just for yourself. It can be extremely healing. And I know that some people are like, I don't want to write, I don't want to sit down and put down my feelings. It's just for you. I think that's one of the things that is so freeing about when you're journaling, especially, is it's just for you. And if you are writing a book and you're like, I don't know if I want to put everything down, put it all down. Put down exactly what you want to say. You can always edit it, but it'll help you get through it and really feel it and really see what's coming up. Because a lot of times I've found you think it's one thing, and then it ends up being something completely different, which again is the magic of storytelling, because you don't always know when you're writing how it's going to go. Even when you think you know how it should end or what the next thing is going to be, things pop up and surprise you because your mind is freed up to really just come out with what it's thinking and making connections that you might not necessarily have thought of. It's so fascinating. So you can tell I love storytelling. So we're going to get into a lot of the different aspects of storytelling in the next several episodes. But I just wanted to give you a flavor of just some of the different things that storytelling can do and why it's so important and why it's so important to dig deep. Because remember, surface stuff doesn't necessarily connect with other people. And it also doesn't help you either. So I use this analogy with some of my students is you take a chocolate truffle and You take the chocolate truffle and you lick the outside of it. Okay, it's chocolate. No, it's okay, right? Yeah, it's okay. Can you tell what flavor it is inside? Nope. Do you get much like texture feeling or burst of wow, what's that? Nope. Maybe get a little salt on it if it's a salty truffle. But that's about it. But if you bite into it, you get the full flavor. You get everything that's in there. You get to experience everything. And so biting in is that getting vulnerable and really bringing that stuff out and not just sticking on the surface, because the flavor is deeper. And that's the piece that is so important that we share with each other and get out there, not only to heal other people, to reach other people, to connect with other people, to cause that empathy that I was talking about, but also to help ourselves as well. Because we can do both. And I do desperately believe right now, especially, we need real stories. We need kindness. We need empathy. We need connection. We need communication. We need to feel like we're not alone. And storytelling allows us to do that on any level that you want to do it. Fiction, nonfiction, social media, blogs, journaling, whatever it is, you can use storytelling to not only help yourselves, but to help other people as well. So I can't wait to get into the rest of the episodes with you and to go through some of the different aspects of storytelling and some of the different things that I've discovered as well over my journey. So I hope this helps. And I can't wait to talk to you in the next episode. Thanks.